All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to our workshop today on building a better follow-up system so that you can win more jobs. Today, we're going to be talking about really what I call the hidden revenue that's sitting inside your existing leads. But first, I really want to start out with a question here. How many of you believe that your company's biggest growth challenge is getting more leads? So post in the chat, please. Just give me a yes or no if you think your company's biggest problem is getting more leads. We've got a couple yeses coming in. Yep, another yes. Yep, Dave said yes. Tom's got a yes. Steve said yes. I did. We got one no in here. That's. I think that might be the only one coming in. Um, Yeah, and then the yes is almost always the answer that I hear. I need more leads, more leads, more leads. But after working with remodeling companies all across the country for years, I found something really surprising. Most companies don't actually have a lead problem. They have a follow-up problem. And one example of that is we've got a client and they're in roofing, so it's obviously different than remodeling, but they get upwards of 900, even 1,000 calls a month. And they're always still screaming more leads, more leads, more leads. But then when we looked at their closing rate and some of their follow-up processes, or I should say lack of follow-up processes, that's where we found out you don't really need more leads. You got to get this closing rate up from 11%, which is where they were at. Like that's leaving 9 out of 10 jobs on the table, walking away from you. And so, every day homeowners they're reaching out, they're requesting these estimates, they're filling out contact forms on your website. Maybe they're making a lot of phone calls to different contractors or downloading the guides that you guys are hopefully offering on your website, the free guides on how much should a kitchen remodel cost, or maybe a good guide on how to choose the best kitchen remodeler for your project, things like that you should be offering for free on your site. But um, companies spend thousands and thousands of dollars generating these type of opportunities, right? Getting people to your website. That's the first step. That's the first step that you need to make a sale is you got to get them to find you first. You got to be recognized, right? And so you put all this money into that, and then something happens. The response back to the customer takes too long, or maybe someone follows up from your office one time, maybe even twice, and then they move on to whatever they're doing, and then that customer moves on too. Or the homeowner, they just get busy and they forget. They made a bunch of calls on their lunch hour, and then they get back to work, and then when they get home, they got the kids and practices and things like that. Maybe they end up talking to a few other contractors before they even get to talk to you because maybe you didn't answer your phone, maybe you didn't have an answering service in place, things that we'll be talking about. Eventually, everyone just assumes that the lead wasn't serious. Bob, it wasn't a good lead. We hear that a lot. And it's like, well, it sounded like a good lead when that call came in. They need a kitchen remodel. They left that message, or, we read the form. And the reality is many of these homeowners, they still end up hiring someone. It just isn't the company that stopped following up. It's someone that kept following up, that stayed in the game. So today, I really want to show you why follow up and not really lead generation is often the biggest opportunity hiding inside your business. We'll talk about why homeowners go quiet, why following up doesn't have to feel pushy, what an effective follow up system actually looks like, and then how today's AI tools can help make that process consistent without replacing the human relationships that ultimately are what win the job. If you leave today and improve nothing except your follow-up process, you can increase your sales without spending another dollar on marketing. One quote I love is the easiest revenue to earn is usually the revenue you've already paid to generate. In other words, you've already got them in your world. They found you. So don't lose that opportunity. Most of you guys know who I am already. You've been listening to me, you've been following me, either our webinar workshops that we do every month. Maybe you've tuned in to our podcast where we're interviewing builders and remodelers and industry professionals across the country. But, I've been doing this for a long time. I was in remodeling and building, have developed million-dollar custom homes, love the computer side of it. I'm a geek at heart. I learned how to write code, years and years ago, 30, 35 years ago or more. Um, so, and we're very involved with the industry, very involved in the associations, and really just want to help anyone and everyone we can and really move the industry forward. This is what I'm passionate about. I love doing this. They say you'll never work another day in your life when you love what you do. And that's where I'm at right now. I love doing this. I wouldn't want to be doing anything else. So hopefully the education I'm putting out there really is giving some good value for you, and you can improve your processes, your systems, your company, your sales, your lead generation, your marketing, whatever it may be. Hopefully you're getting value out of that. And that's what's most important to me. Uh, This is really what we do, though. We're only working with home improvement contractors, specifically remodelers and builders for the most part, sometimes some window companies, roofers, HVAC, things like that. But this is all we work with. We're not trying to be experts in all of the industries out there. We're not trying to tell you that we're experts in dental marketing and everything else. This is what we're going to cover today. What we're going to go over is just kind of why follow up, not lead volume, is the real revenue generating system. Why leads go quiet after the first conversation. The truth about sounding pushy in follow up. This is going to be something that's sensitive for a lot of you on here. And I don't want to be pushy, Bob. I don't want to keep reaching out. We're going to help you solve that dilemma. What a real follow up machine looks like. We'll also talk about the four pillars of a high performing follow up system. We'll talk about where most follow up systems break down. And then we're going to talk about how AI can help keep your follow up execution consistent, because consistency really is the key here. And then we're going to teach you what those next steps are to build the system to make this happen. Before we dive in today, I also want to let everyone know that for those of you who stay to the end of this webinar, I have a couple of freebies that I'm going to send to you via email if you're still on here at the end. We're going to try to keep this under an hour. The first is going to be a deeper dive into all the material that we're going to cover today. So kind of, a blueprint really on how to build a follow-up system that will make every one of your leads more valuable. So everything we're going to go over today, you're going to get that in kind of a PDF guide. And then I'm also going to give you another guide on how to use an AI visibility tool that will guide you on where your company stands currently when it comes to the different AI platforms out there, and things that you can work on to help you improve your visibility online and become the one company that AI mentions when people are searching for your services. So stick around to the end, and hopefully we'll get you another step up, another leg up on your competitors by helping you kind of guide, how do you show up in these AI results? Because everyone knows how big AI is and how big it's going to be in the future too. Follow-up is the real revenue system. I said that already. As we know, revenue isn't lost when the lead comes in. It's lost when the follow-up stops. Big difference there, right? Most companies focus heavily on lead generation because it's visible and it's easy to measure. Did I get a call or not? That's pretty easy to measure, right? But in most remodeling businesses, there's already enough lead volume to grow your company. The real constraint is what happens after the lead enters your system. Now, this isn't for everybody. Maybe some of you on here are like, Bob, I do need more leads. I don't have enough. So that is another another issue, another problem with your marketing, with your lead generation system. We can help with that. We can talk about that. But really, the biggest constraint is what happens afterwards. What do you do with that lead? How much are you touching that lead, and how much value are you given to keep that lead interested and engaged? Follow-up is where revenue is either captured or lost. Even small delays or inconsistencies can significantly reduce conversion rates, because homeowners are not making impulse decisions with these big remodel projects, 50, $100,000, maybe 500,000, maybe $1 million custom home. These are not impulse decisions. So they're evaluating, they're comparing companies, and they're really taking time to decide. We got a lot to work out. Homeowners are typically comparing two to up to five different contractors, especially if you're on some of those lead gen sites that where they send that lead out to 5 or 10 different contractors, charge every one of you the same price, and you may not even get to talk to that homeowner because they've already talked to five other contractors and they just shut it down after that. Homeowners are also reviewing price differences. They're checking reviews and other trust signals, social signals, and they're really just kind of waiting for more clarity before they decide, more cohesion and agreement within their family unit, to really make sure they're making the best decision financially for their family. Everything is really kind of weighing into this decision, so it doesn't happen quickly. Marketing doesn't stop at that lead, though. It continues through every follow-up point, or at least it should be continuing, right? And so, why do leads disappear after you talk to them, for the first time? One thing I'll say, and this is really worth saying twice, but we only say it once. Silence doesn't mean that there is no longer any interest in your company or the job or the service. It just usually means they're still deciding. That's it. A lot of people say, "Oh, I didn't hear from them after one or two calls. They must have went with someone else." Couldn't be further from the truth. Maybe that happens, but a lot of times that is not what has happened. They're just still deciding. And so most remodeling leads do not convert immediately because homeowners are they're rarely ready to make a decision on that first interaction. They're in that comparison and evaluation phase that often lasts days, weeks, sometimes even months, maybe even a year or two, where someone might finally come back and say, "Finally, we're ready. We're in a financial position, whatever. All the ducks have lined up perfectly for them. They're finally ready to move forward." And so the breakdown happens when the follow-up that you're putting forth stops way too early. Many companies, they respond once or twice, and that's it. And if there's no immediate reply, they just consider the lead's gone cold. They've went with someone else. But in reality, the homeowner is still in the decision-making process. And your company may just be the one that exited too early in that lead nurture, that sales follow-up process. The reality is that at homeowners, they're comparing multiple estimates. They're discussing the budget with their family, maybe their financial advisor, maybe their loan officer who's going to, get a HELOC for them. They're evaluating all the different contractors on credibility, on your craftsmanship and workmanship. They're looking at your social media. They're trying to get a sense for who are they going to be working with, because you're going to be working with them for months probably. They're going to be in and out of your house. They really want to get to know you. And so they're looking for that reassurance and that clarity that lets them know, that gives them the peace of mind that they were making the right decision when they choose to work with you. I mentioned sounding pushy earlier. It really is a big misunderstanding. If every message that you're putting forth, every follow-up message is adding value, then frequency stops being the problem. It's not the frequency, it's the messaging. And so one of the biggest reasons follow-up fails is because companies are afraid of being too aggressive, being pushy. That fear leads to not staying consistent and following up with leads, or stopping communication altogether just way too early, even when the homeowner is still actively in that decision-making process. But here's the important distinction. Pushiness is not about frequency. It's about relevance and value. So follow-up feels pushy when it's repetitive, like saying, "Hey, just checking in again," and you keep doing that. "Hey, just checking in again." That's pushy. That's people don't want to hear that. They need value. They need a better message. Or you're just sending the same message without adding anything new. Maybe it's not just checking again, but maybe it's a similar type message, and it's just that over and over. There's really nothing new. There's no value. On the other hand, though, it really feels helpful to a homeowner when each touch point adds something meaningful. So whether that's providing timelines or expectations on what it's going to be like to work with your company, or answering common homeowner questions, sharing helpful project insights, or clearly guiding them toward the next step in the process. So, think in terms of value, messaging. And so, what does a follow-up machine actually look like? A follow-up machine is really a structured system that ensures every lead is handled consistently from the moment it comes in until it either converts or it's disqualified. It removes randomness from the sales process and replaces it with a repetitive workflow. And so, first off, is a fast initial response system. This is going to ensure that every new lead is contacted quickly after they come in. While their interest is still high, they're still paying attention, ADHD hasn't kicked in. Most cases, the first few minutes determine whether you stay in the conversation or they make a comparison with other contractors without you involved. And this is where I say answer your phone like 100% of the time, not 9 out of 10, 100% of the time, answer your phone. And if you can't, then hire an answering system. If, every time we work with a new partner, if they're not answering their phone, we put an answering system in place for them. You just cannot let it go to voicemail because you know what those people do? They go right back into Google or right back into AI and they just look for the next company to call. And when they get that person on the phone, guess what? That person's got a greater than 50% chance of getting that job just because they were the first person to answer the phone. And what that really equates to is they are the first person to build a relationship with the homeowner. And that's what this is all about, right? It's about building relationships. And then your multi-step follow-up sequence, it's got to have at least 7 touches, but maybe as many as 12 or more. It could be 15 or 20. And what this is a structured series of follow-ups that happens over time instead of stopping after that, first or second attempt. And so it ensures the homeowner that they're hearing from you consistently while they're still in that deciding process. And so this is where automation is your friend. And we're going to be talking about automation and AI in this process as well. And then defining your messaging framework is really crucial as well. This is a clear structure for what each message should communicate so that follow-ups they're not repetitive, they're not just random. That's why they say in sales, like, have a script. You don't have to read from it, but have a script. Like, you're going to hit all these touch points for a reason, because they're important. You mapped it out. You've heard these questions, these concerns from homeowners before, so you've mapped out a good script that now you know by heart, so you don't even think of it out as a script. But it's the same thing with your messaging framework. Every touch point has a purpose, whether it's adding clarity to your process, whether it's just trying to build some trust, or whether you're guiding on the next step in the process. And then scheduling re-engagement cycles. We all have those leads that just kind of go dark on us, what we call ghosting. We don't know what happened to them. We want to re-engage those. This is really about bringing those leads back that went quiet on you, and instead of just saying, oh yeah, they disappeared, they're gone, must have went with someone else. We've already disproved that myth, I hope. And so for you, it creates a second chance to reconnect with homeowners who maybe they weren't ready earlier. I mean, it happens to me. I hear from someone, they don't answer anything. They don't reply to text, emails, socials, nothing. And then 2 years later, like, hey, Bob, I think I'm ready to move forward. Like we had that happen just a few months ago. I hadn't heard from this guy in over 2 years. And he was ready to move forward with marketing. So I know that happens. It happens to me. It happens to you guys as well. And then the last thing that is super crucial is just tracking and visibility of those prospects in your CRM. And hopefully everyone here is using a CRM. The days of yellow pad and pencils or spreadsheets are long gone. It could be a simple CRM. It could be, the more advanced CRMs in our industry like JobTread or BuilderTrend. But this makes sure every lead is accounted for and nothing falls through the cracks. It really gives full visibility into where each lead is in your follow-up process, and then what action is going to come next, because there's going to be so many people that are in different stages of your follow-up process, different stages of your funnel. In other words, they're at the top of the funnel, they just came in. They're going to get different messaging from the people that are in the middle of the funnel, or the people at the bottom of the funnel that are about ready to drop out into your lap with a signed contract. So this follow-up machine is really meant to remove the guesswork from your sales process. And the core structure of a high-performing follow-up system, it's really built on four core pillars that work together. These are not separate ideas. They depend on each other. If even one of these core pillars is missing, the system starts to break down and it really becomes inconsistent quite quickly. And so that's usually when leads slip through the cracks, or that follow up, starts to really feel random instead of structured the way it should be. And so speed to lead. Speed is about how quickly you respond when a lead comes in. Ideally, you're answering the phone, like I said. In remodeling, timing matters more than most people realize, because homeowners are often reaching out to multiple companies at the same time. The faster you respond, the more likely you are to stay relevant in that decision-making process. And I mean quick follow-up. If you don't answer the phone, at least have your automation set up that lets you know, hey, you just missed a call, and follow up within 3 to 5 minutes at most. Slow response time doesn't just reduce your chances, it often removes you from consideration entirely. And we've seen this time and time again. I see it all the time. All these good leads, people saying, oh, that wasn't a good lead. And it's like, well, when did you follow up? Well, I was on a job. It took a few hours. Well, there's your answer, folks. You can't take a few hours, or you can't reply to someone a day or two later. I just had it. I was trying to find somebody to work with on a service I needed. It took them 3 days plus the weekend. So really like 5 days before I heard. I'm like, wow, that's okay. Interesting follow up. Maybe they should be on this webinar here as well. But speed to lead, that gets the attention because you're catching the lead while the interest is still really high. And then structure is about having a clear system for what happens after that first response. Most companies respond quickly once, but then everything after that becomes inconsistent or just kind of dependent upon memory. Like, when did I follow up with him? When do I need to follow up? What was the last follow up, by the way? What should the next one be? You can't remember all that. Don't kid yourself, especially if you've got a bunch of leads coming in, 10, 20, 30, 50 leads a month, where, like no way can you keep up with all that. So structure means there's a defined follow-up sequence. So every lead gets consistent communication over time, regardless of who in your company is handling that lead or how busy the whole team is. That structure is going to keep the attention on that homeowner, on that lead, because it ensures the conversation doesn't drop off in any way, shape, or form. And then we've got value-based messaging as well. Value-based messaging is what separates helpful follow-up from just annoying follow-up, that pushy follow-up that we were talking about. Instead of just checking in repeatedly, every message should add something useful to the conversation. I said earlier that clarity could be on timelines. It could be on pricing expectations. What could add to the price? What are the next steps in the process? What are the next steps after they sign the contract? If that's what you're waiting on, maybe they haven't signed because they're not sure what the next steps after that will be. So they're just like a little reticent. They're just not ready to sign because they don't know what's next. They don't want to sign and then be like, what's next? That's being reactive, right? You want to be proactive. Get out in front of these things. Maybe they just want you to answer some common questions that they and other homeowners have. And hopefully you've done that through your sales process. But if not, you can have that as part of your follow-up, an FAQ, where they can just read through like, oh yeah, I did ask them that question, but it's nice to have it here in writing in an email or a PDF guide that you sent out. That's even better, a whole PDF guide with all your branding on it and everything. You can drop some reviews in there. Like there's so many things you can do with your follow-up messaging process to really make those messages valuable. And when they're valuable, they feel like guidance instead of pressure. And so it's that messaging that really builds trust because it helps owners make really a more confident decision. And then lastly, that the core pillar of persistence. Persistence is about staying present long enough to match how homeowners actually make decisions. Most remodeling projects are not decided on in 1 or 2 days. We know that. Homeowners take time to compare, to think through all this, and sometimes just pause. They just need a pause and a reset. Nothing, no rhyme or reason. They just need to just take a breath and really think, or maybe even not think about moving forward. And so your persistence with good on point messaging ensures that your follow up doesn't stop too early just because there was no immediate response. Persistence is what keeps you in the decision process until the homeowner is ready. And that's really the key. It's when the homeowner's ready. It's not when you're ready. And so how do you follow up without sounding pushy? Here's the key lesson. Stop asking for updates and start giving clarity. And by that, I mean, have you ever sent that message out? Hey, just checking in for an update where you're at. Like, no one likes that message. Give more clarity and get people to engage with you because your messaging is a lot more smart and a lot more sharp. And so the key shift is moving from checking in to helping homeowners decide. Each follow up should feel like progress, not pressure. Instead of asking for a response every time, you want to be giving context that helps the homeowner move forward in their decision-making process. So, you can be providing value in the form of that typical project timelines, the budget ranges and expectations of different finishes, maybe step-by-step process explanations that they might have questions on. Common homeowner concerns are getting answered. Maybe, some project context around before and after pictures can help as well. And then why does consistency win more so than intensity? And here's that key distinction. You're not trying to close these deals fast. These typically aren't one call closes, right? You're trying to stay present long enough so that you're the remodeler, builder, contractor that gets chosen for the job. You're just trying to stay present, stay visible, stay in the game because you can't win the game if you're not in the game, right? Most companies overestimate what 1 or 2 follow ups can accomplish. Remodeling is a high consideration decision. It's a high value proposition, right? It means that homeowners often need multiple touch points before they end up making that choice to go with your company or another company. And so it's that consistency that creates familiarity. And then we all know that familiarity is what builds trust, and people do business with companies they know, like, and trust, right? And so the companies that stay consistently present throughout the decision-making process are far more likely to win the job, even if they are not the cheapest option. And that's really a big distinction because a lot of people think to win jobs, they got to race to the bottom in pricing. And you guys, I know you guys on here are smarter than that. It's not about having the lowest price. There's a lot more that's going to go into that. People will pay a higher price for good quality, for great craftsmanship, and for good communication, good clarity on what that process is going to look like next. And so, where do most follow up systems break down? Most of those failures in follow up come from the predictable issues that they repeat across company after company after company. We've been hearing this for years and years. Slow response time, too few follow ups, no real structured process in your follow up system. That repetitive, pushy kind of messaging that really just provides no value. And there's really no re-engagement strategy. How do you get these people re-engaged? Someone dropped off, you haven't heard from them in a year. You're just going to come out and say, hey, just checking to see on an update. They're going to be like, who are you? And so when you zoom out on this and kind of get a big picture view, these aren't random problems. They're system issues. And everyone on here knows how important it is to build systems in your company. One of the most important things that you can really be doing. And so fixing these random problems, and I use air quotes around random because they're not random. Fixing these usually comes down to building consistency, building more structure in your company, in your sales system, in your follow-up system, and then just really a more clear and transparent follow-up process that doesn't depend on your memory or individual habits to stay in touch with all these prospects. I always like to say most leads don't go cold. They just stop being followed up with. And I think a lot of people on here can probably attest to that, right? I get a couple comments in the chat. Yeah, I'm glad you guys are being transparent with yourselves because you can't fix a problem if you don't recognize and admit to it. You got to say, hey, this is a problem. I recognize it. I'm going to commit to doing it. And so now, how do systems and AI support your follow-up execution? Systems and AI do not replace human communication. Be clear on that because so many people hate the word automation, hate the word AI. They just and these are just uh, systems that ensure consistency in your execution. And that's really a key distinction because most people cringe at the thought of AI or automation helping handle sales follow-up and lead nurture. It's like, oh, I got to do that. Or, oh my God, people hate automation. That's because you're using it wrong. If you have those cringe thoughts or feelings, goosebumps when you think about automation or AI. But these systems remove the risk of leads being forgotten or mishandled due to human limitations, workload, lack of memory, or inconsistent processes. In most remodeling companies, the issue is not effort. You guys are all hard workers, and it shows from the companies you've built. But it's the follow-up that it just depends too much on manual actions instead of the structured automation that you should have in your company, in your systems. So let's talk about instant lead response. In a nutshell, instant lead response ensures that when a homeowner fills out a form or calls your company, they get an immediate response instead of waiting hours or until the next business day. Speed to lead is critical because most homeowners are contacting multiple contractors. We know that, right? You're not the only one that they're contacting. So here's just kind of a sampling of some of the AI tools that support this. Go High Level is the CRM that we use. It's one of the biggest CRMs in the marketing industry. Shows how popular it is. And so we have a lot of workflows. They auto reply. They send triggers. If a form comes in, automatically a text and or an email goes back out to that prospective new customer automatically so that before I can even think about when can I call them, how soon can I call them, they've gotten an instantaneous reply within a minute so that it feels like they've been listened to. They're like, oh, cool. Look, they've already, replied to me. They may know it's automation. We don't care about that. We're not trying to hide the fact that automation works because that's how the world works. Technology moves us forward, right? So you may be using different CRMs. You may be using industry CRMs like Builder or JobTread, or maybe you're using HubSpot or Salesforce. It doesn't matter. Whatever CRM you're using, make sure that you have workflows built in to handle some of those auto replies for a missed phone call, for a contact form that comes into your website. You want instant replies going out for anything, chat messaging, instant replies. ChatGPT has their powered website chat widgets. So you can have instant Q&A on there. You can have instant lead capture systems in there. You don't have to wait till you see that message pop on your phone. All that should be happening instantaneously. Oh, yeah. Or even better yet, your chat is being trained on AI so that it can have a whole conversation before turning that conversation over to you or getting that homeowner to book an appointment on your calendar. And then you've got Facebook and Google ads. They've got instant lead response automations as well. Really important because a lot of people Facebook ads, Google ads, they're just clicking on them and moving on. So you want something in their inbox, into their phone instantly, so they know that oh wow, they know I clicked on the ad and I want some help. And then you've also got like Intercom and Drift AI kind of chat systems that you can have a whole chat with the prospect without ever having a human involved. That's how smart AI is getting. You got to really train it. You got to put a lot of work in up front, but then you save all kinds of time and a lot of money on the back end because now you don't have a whole salary involved in manning your phone or using an outsource, So, an example like a homeowner submits a kitchen remodel form. They immediately receive a text that says, "Hey, got your request. Here's what happens next, and then we'll be calling you at this time." And that's enough for them to say, "Oh, well, I'll wait and see, what ABC Remodeling Company has for me. I don't need to go clicking back into Google or whatever immediately. I've got someone here. It looks like they're going to call me back." So that's just a easy example. And so when we talk about like automated follow-up sequencing, what we're talking about is a structured series of follow-ups that happen automatically over time. So leads don't rely on someone remembering to reach out. AI tools that support this. Again, go high level workflows, SMS, text, plus email sequences. You've got Active Campaign, which is great for automation sequences. HubSpot sequences with AI assisted timing involved there. You've got Instantly as an email system. You got Smart Lead. Those both do great with email drip follow-ups, just workflows that just keep dripping emails out every other day or every other week or whatever timeline that you put into action. So, like an example, after a homeowner inquiry comes in, the system automatically sends like day one an introduction plus your process overview. And then day three, they'll send you, hey, here are some of our past project examples, some before and after pictures. And then day five, maybe you send an FAQ email or maybe a guide or PDF guide about pricing and how that can vary depending on all these different factors. I mean, you can do a kitchen remodel for 25K, you could do a kitchen remodel for 250K or more. So there's a lot that you can talk about there. And then maybe day eight, you can send an email, hey, you still planning, on the kitchen remodel, and try to get them re-engaged in that messaging. And, there's a lot you can do in terms of, how you build that messaging out, what you say, and of course, what not to say as well. And then you've got lead tracking and reminders. This is going to give you visibility into every lead that comes in so that nothing really gets forgotten or stuck in your pipeline with no action actually happening. And so there are AI tools that support this as well. Again, go high level. We have pipelines for sales and AI task reminders and things they send me. Hey, Bob, you're due to follow up with Frank today or to follow up with Bill today or, whatever it may be. And you got HubSpot, and their AI built in next best action suggestions. HubSpot does that. HubSpot's really good, but they've tend to, have gotten really expensive. You've got Builder Trend and all their AI task automations that they've built in, JobTread, AI activity tracking. Those are both great CRMs for our industry. I think a lot of you on here are using that. I know some of the names I recognized coming in before I started the webinar today, definitely using these tools. So example, what these tools can do, let's say a lead hasn't been contacted in say 48 hours. The system can automatically flag that and then assign a reminder to you to say, hey, call this lead today. They had a high intent form fill. Why haven't they been contacted in 48 hours? So just kind of a reminder to you, and then then you can act on that. So I like the reminders because I can't remember all that stuff. It's great to have automated text going out or automated emails, but I like the reminders that come to me to just say, hey, have you checked in with Steve yet, or have you checked in with Stephanie yet on their inquiry that came in a few weeks ago, whatever it was. So those reminders are really helpful for you and just managing your day. And then there's the process of identifying those inactive leads as ones that just haven't done anything. Maybe they're ghosting. And this really, helps automatically detect the leads that have gone quiet so that you can move them into a separate re-engagement process or workflow instead of just, being lost. AI tools that support this are those CRMs that they're tracking behavior. And, is this person not opening any emails? Are they not clicking on anything? Have they not followed up with you? You can use HubSpot and do some scoring activity for them to give them a higher score if they're really staying engaged with you, or a lower score. You can use predictive lead scoring tools that are built into Builder Trend or Job Tread. Email engagement tracking tools like, Active Campaign or Kiavio or Constant Contact. We've used Constant Contact as well. So an example, like a homeowner opens an email, but they haven't replied in 10 days now. They opened it, they haven't replied in 10 days. So the system labels them as cold but engaged, which means for you, maybe they move over into a reactivation campaign, which has a whole different set of messaging and value touch emails, reminders for you, things like that to get them re-engaged. And so when it comes to those re-engagement workflows, this is how your older inactive leads are kind of brought back into the conversation using that automation, but it's also very naturally sounding messaging. So, you can use AI tools that are built in to go high level for reactivation campaigns, or, HubSpot has automated win back workflows. ChatGPT generated personalized SMS or email sequences. You can go to ChatGPT and say, yeah, I want to build a reactivation or re-engagement sequence that can get ghosted homeowners or homeowners that have ghosted me back into the fray. And then ChatGPT can design a workflow for you. 1, 3, 10 emails, whatever. I never take what ChatGPT or any AI just spits out. I'll take that, if they gave me 10 emails in a workflow, now I'm going to take it, I'm going to massage all those and work them and make them my own brand, my own voice. So, be careful about just taking what chat spits out, because a lot of it's pretty AI sounding, a little generic. You may not recognize it. We do, because we're doing this all day, every day, and we see it out there. But people start recognizing that more and more, and they don't want to feel like they're talking to AI. So be careful there, be conscientious, and try to put a little extra work into it. And then, you've got all the CRM tools as well that can help you with AI segmentation and re-engagement and whatnot. But, you can just, a simple message like just, hey, still planning that bathroom remodel, or did some, things get pushed back for now? That automatically can get sent out to your leads that went quiet after the initial interest. It's just a simple message to see if maybe their timeline moved or whatever, and you're just, trying to find out how that affects your timeline as well. And so when we think about AI in this regard, AI doesn't just improve your follow-up strategy, it improves your consistency too. And that's really, the most important part is consistency. And so what changes when follow-up is done correctly? When follow-up is structured properly, companies do not need more leads to grow. They simply need to convert more of the leads they already have. And this is going to improve your efficiency across the entire marketing and sales system. It's going to reduce your dependency on constantly increasing ad spend as well, which, we all know ad spend, how it can get out of control. And so we know that improving efficiency, it's really analogous to that famous quote, work smarter, not harder. And over time, the business becomes more predictable. Sales cycles will stabilize, closing more leads and growing your revenue becomes a little more consistent and predictable, which, lets us all sleep a little better at night. And then performance becomes easier to scale because fewer opportunities are lost after that initial contact. And so you don't always need more leads. You need fewer leaks. Leads and leaks, very different there, right? And so when it comes to implementing everything I've kind of talked about today, building your follow-up machine, the first step is to audit your current follow-up process from a homeowner's perspective. Look at the response time, the number of touch points, the message quality. Map your current follow-up flow, map it out. Put some thought in this, put some time in this, and then identify where those leads are dropping off. Where do they drop off? After the initial consult, after the contract, somewhere in between, 1 week after the contract, 3 months after the contract. And then think about, building a structured 7 to 10 touch sequence. And by touches, that could be phone calls, could be emails, could be text. And then you want to also make sure you're defining the messaging themes, not just reminders, but the themes behind each message. Was it about the timeline? Was it about FAQs they might have? Was it about just how your company works, your process, all that kind of stuff? And then also, make sure that part of your follow-up has implementation for re-engagement on those cold leads. So that could be a second workflow. That's the way we have it built. We have follow-up sequences, and then when they're really cold, they go into another one and they get a kind of a different set of messaging because they're not the same, right? You just give a contract to someone and you're trying to follow up with them for the next couple of weeks. That's going to sound and feel and look very different from a cold lead over here that hasn't, follow up with you or been in touch with you for 2 or 3 or 6 months. So having different workflows there is really helpful as well. And so, if you fix the follow up, you usually don't need to fix lead generation first. In other words, your problem is not necessarily a lack of leads. It's just fixing that follow up process and getting it dialed in. That guide that I'm going to be sending everyone on here that stayed is going to really help with that. But right now, I just kind of want to stop, see if anyone's got any questions so far. Feel free to post any questions you have in the chat. I'm here for you as a resource. I'm here to help. We've got a couple more slides to go through, but I just want to kind of give a pause here. I've been talking a lot. I want to see if you guys got any questions for me. First question that I saw Tom post a few minutes ago. Tom said, how often should I follow up before I'm just annoying the homeowner? And so that's a good one, Tom. That's probably the most common question I get, Tom. The answer is you're only annoying if every message says, just checking in again. That's annoying, right? We all know that. But if each follow-up provides something valuable, like I said earlier, the project timeline, maybe information on financing, maybe design ideas that that you picked up on in that consult with them, answers to common questions that they or other homeowners always have, your FAQs that should be on every person on here on this webinar. You should have your FAQs on your website, you should have them on your Google business page, you should use them in your social media posts too. Or maybe the next step in the process. What you're trying to do is become a helpful resource, Tom, instead of just a salesperson. Most homeowners take weeks or even months to make that remodeling decision. And so your follow-up should really match their buying timeline. Hope that makes sense, Tom. Monica had a question for me. She asked, what if we don't have time for follow up with every lead, that many times, 7 or 10 touches? And Monica, that's exactly why companies lose opportunities. The solution isn't hiring more people first. It's building a system, your CRM, your automation tools, and AI can handle reminders, can handle email and text sequences, can handle repetitive tasks so that your team spends their time having real conversations and not trying to remember who to call next and where you're at in the process with them and what you're supposed to call them about. Consistency beats good intentions every single time, especially when automation can handle most of this for you. And then Danielle just asked a question. If I could only improve one thing tomorrow, what would it be? Daniel, I'd focus on response time. I kind of harped on that a little bit earlier. I've seen it. It's a huge problem. The first company to respond professionally often has a huge advantage, over a 50% chance of winning that job because they built the relationship first. So, I'd make sure that every lead has a planned next step instead of hoping someone remembers to follow up. You shouldn't have to worry about any of your leads and what that next step is. You don't have to have, a perfect system built overnight, but you should never let a lead become forgotten. Never let them slip through the cracks. If you ever find yourself saying, oh, that one slipped through the cracks, stop, fix the problem, address it right then and there. Otherwise, it's going to happen again and again. And then I have one more question come in before I'll move on here. A question from Bill. This is a good one. I like this, Bill. It's straight to the point. Do I really need AI for this? The answer is Bill, no, you don't need AI. It is great for follow-up though, but great follow-up existed long before AI came around, right? AI makes it much easier to be consistent, and that's really the key. It can draft emails for you, it can schedule follow-ups, it can remind your team through automatic reminders, it can identify those leads that have gone quiet. It can help personalize your communication, try to get it into your brand voice. If you're training your own AI, and you should be, have it really learn about your brand, your voice. Are you kind of funny and goofy and just kind of whimsical at times, like I am? I like to just have fun. I don't want to be all serious, unless we're really talking numbers and ROI and things that really matter. But you can train your AI to speak in your voice as well. The relationship is still human. You're still in the game. You're not just removing yourself and going fishing, although I know some of you guys would love to do that. But AI can simply put, it helps make sure no opportunity slips through the cracks, and that's really key. And one thought I'll leave you with here is to remember homeowners don't buy when you're ready to sell your service. They buy when they're ready to buy. And so your job is to simply just still be present when that day comes when they're ready to buy. And so I told you guys, thanks for everyone that stayed here. As I mentioned in the beginning, I have a couple of freebies that I'll be sending you for sticking around to the end here. Really appreciate everyone that stayed on here. They stayed involved. I've got some great questions in, and you guys are you're trying to learn how to move your business forward, and I really respect that. I love learning every day. That's why I love AI, because the stuff we're learning with AI and how to like really code it, it's just fascinating, the things that AI can do, and we're 10% of what Mythos 5 and Mythos and Fable and all those are doing in government applications and whatnot. But the first freebie I'm going to send you, it's a deeper dive into all the material that we've covered today. It's kind of a blueprint, really, on how to build that follow-up system that will make every one of your leads more valuable. So if anything, you guys stuck around, you guys and gals, I should say, this deep dive blueprint is going to really be valuable for you. And then the other, it's really important too. It's a guide on how to use an AI visibility tool that will guide you on where your company currently stands in terms of the different AI platforms, where you're ranking out there, and things that you can work on to improve your visibility and become the one company that AI mentions when people are searching for your services. So that's going to really give you another leg up on your competitors as well. And so this is a AI tool that we actually created to help you navigate your way through finding the leads that are right for you. And so the Home Remodeler SEO AI Visibility Checker, it helps builders and remodelers, home improvement contractors really get a starting point for understanding how their company may be showing up in AI search when someone asks for a specific company, like they would ask in Google, not just a generic question, but who's the best remodeler in Buffalo, New York, or something like that. It's going to help you understand where you show up in that or don't show up in that, and maybe why. It can help identify whether your business is being recognized, where visibility may be weak, what areas may need stronger content, which is a big factor that drives your placement in AI. It's about content, hint, hint, for you folks that are really paying attention here. Content is king. It might be talking about clear information on your service pages or location pages, maybe better local signals on your Google business profile or social media, or maybe it's just more trust building proof, like your reviews and the things that you're doing to really grow the authority and credibility of your company. So use this AI tool as a starting point, but it's not the whole strategy. The goal is just really to understand where you stand and then improve on the signals that will help AI and search engines trust and recommend your company. And so if you get that visibility dialed in, plus your leads follow-up system dialed in, it's pretty much a guarantee that you're going to get booked and busy really quick here. So use that AI tool. We built it for you guys. It's free to use. It's going to spit out all the information that you need, that you want. And then if you got questions, you can always come back to me. I'm always here to help anyone and everyone with whatever questions you might have. In closing, I want to leave you with one final thought. The difference between busy and booked is follow up. Most remodeling companies are not losing leads because of weak marketing. A lot of you guys got that dialed in. Some of you guys got that dialed in really well. Um, you're losing leads because follow up is inconsistent, it's unstructured, or it's too limited to match how homeowners actually make decisions. When follow up becomes a system instead of a habit, conversion rates increase without increasing lead volume. And that's the difference between a company that constantly needs more traffic versus a company that consistently turns existing demand into booked jobs. You're not losing leads at the top of the funnel, typically. You're losing them in the silence that comes afterwards. Does that make sense? So I hope all this was really good value for you. Don't hesitate to reach out to me. I love what I do. I love teaching. I love educating. If you got a question, you want me to look at your follow-up system, you want me to look at your CRM, you want me to look at your website, and what you could be doing to bring in more leads, to convert more leads. Bringing them in is one step, right? Converting them is quite another step. That's the hard part. Build it and they will come. Field of dreams, build it and they will come. But once they come, what are they going to do then? You want to convert them into people hitting base hits and home runs and whatnot, i.e., book jobs. So don't hesitate to reach out to me, email, call, go to the website, book a discovery call where we get on the phone. You want to book a strategy session where we can get on Zoom. I can share my screen, things like that. I'm here for you guys, but just want to thank everyone for attending the webinar workshop today. I hope you got a lot of value out of this. Hopefully, I gave you some things to think about, some things you can really act upon to make sure that your follow-up system improves. After watching this webinar, this workshop, if you act on it, if you implement some of this stuff, if you really think about what you need, where your weakness lies, where the leads might slip through the cracks, you will improve your follow-up system. And if you improve your follow-up system, I guarantee you're going to close more leads because they didn't just quit on you. They're still deciding, they're trying to figure it out. They haven't. What I like to tell people is keep following up with everyone until one or two things happen. They either go ahead and book with you, or they tell you to just go away. They unsubscribe. We get unsubscribes all the time, and I love them because I know that that's someone that's just not, they don't need marketing, they don't want marketing, or whatever the reasons are. They don't want to talk to me, so I don't want to follow up with them. I don't want to bug them. I want to talk to people that want to have a conversation, that want to move their business forward. And same as you guys, you want to talk with homeowners that want to move their project idea forward. So I hope all this has helped for you. I hope all this value has been good for you. I'll look forward to seeing you guys on the next webinar as well. Take care, everyone, and have a great rest of your day. We'll see you.